Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast, Class, Religion, and Sex Appeal. Now, this is something I've talked about, I've hit upon every now and then. You know, I always talk about there's more to a relationship than just two people looking good to each other. There's so many variables. Now, when I'm thinking about class, religion, and sex appeal, and those are the main three factors on why many men and women can't get together. Now, as I've said before, recently, I'm not going to start moving beyond just pure game like man gets women, but the relationship part, and especially a lot of guys basically know how to get women. So, and plus got a few women listening. And when you look at relationships, and now these are main things, there's always some individual thing, and these are very general statements. Let me be clear about that. These are very general statements. But in coaching, conversations, studies, observation, talking with men and women, these three things seem to pop up the most. Now, the sex appeal, I'm gonna start. I put that last, but they're in no particular order anyway. You just got to say one or the other first and second and last. But sex appeal. Now, often in many relationships, the reason why a couple doesn't work is they don't have that strong a sexual attraction to each other. Now, they might have some other stuff going on. They definitely have some other stuff. They might have similar class and religious background, or similar aspirations, or quite frankly, depending on their location, just the best option. But the sex appeal isn't there. Now, if people remember my infamous 5 types of sex video, that's why so many people got hot, because they discovered that. They discovered that. And that's a very important piece. Because if there's an honest conversation had between a couple breaking up, an honest conversation, that's some of the bullshit about, we had irreconcilable differences, or we couldn't communicate. Question, hey, how's the sex life? If they say it was great, okay, you might hear some other stuff, but usually they don't. But then the thing is, you can't take that separate from the other stuff. Now, class, because a big issue is the class thing. In fact, and I've said this several times. It was a quote I got from George Sabira, who wrote Money Issues in Black Male-Female Relationships. And just to be clear, this class thing isn't just a black issue. Let me make that abundantly clear. In fact, from my observation, class differences are even more pronounced in the white community. You don't see that trailer park dude messing with that upper class princess too much, except in movies. In fact, in my observation, whites and other groups tend to stay in their classes more. Actually, in the black community, our lines are more blurred, and we'll cross class more so than any other group. But that gets into some deeper stuff why that is. But you know, the class thing is very important. When you look at the women, I'm going to tell you what, whenever, like online in these spaces, you always get some women say, where are the good men at? Oh, I don't have a man on my level. Usually, using BGS's octane model, usually those women are on the 89s and 92s. Usually they either have some level of education, or they have some aspirations of going higher. Because you get some women, maybe they don't have the same level of education, but they have an aspiration at least living like a higher class. So that's gonna affect how they deal with people. And like men aren't as strict about it, as strict, unless you go up in class and is the type of man who might be a professional or politician, somebody who is dealing in circles where his wife or significant other is representing him. But it's a factor. It's a factor. And it's a factor in more ways than just what a person's aspirations was. Everybody's personality is shaped by the class they grew up in. There's certain personality traits you come in with naturally. Like you might be more aggressive than average, or you might be more passive or more curious, whatever. You come in with something, but then it's further shaped by whatever environment you grow up in. One example I've used before when I've talked about these things is the difference between a kid who grows up in impoverished environment and the kid who grows up in a upper middle class environment. Now, say they both come into the world both naturally aggressive. Now, the kid in the poor environment, he might be a gang leader or a drug dealer or something because he's trying to get out, so he's going to put his talents towards that. Whereas the kid in the upper class background might be made captain of the football team and sent to a prep school or even West Point. So, but that class thing plays a part. Now, when two people are together, they could have a lot of sexual chemistry, but the class issues become more pronounced because of the behaviors, because of what you like to do. If you get one dude like a man coming from a family where, they like the family cookouts, they loud, playing spades, and, the woman's from a more prim and proper environment, they might have some sexual chemistry turned on by each other, but there's only so much time you can spend in bed. So usually that's a problem. And I've seen that a lot. Like the class thing, even more so than a sex thing. Usually when I see two people, if they not of the same general social class, because even within the major social classes, we talk of upper class, rich upper class, upper middle class, working middle class, poor, lumping proletarian, like really down there. There's usually some little difference if they not clicking. Like ultimately, if someone really wants to make a relationship work beyond the sex appeal, it really helps if they the same class, in the same social class. And then I've talked a lot about that. One thing I haven't talked about is religion. We don't talk about, and that's one conversation. If it was bad enough we don't talk about class, religion is really never really talked about. But it makes a big difference on who is going to get along. If people are not on the same general spiritual accord. When I say general, because of course we have instances where people of different religions have made it work. But if you like one person is like one of those people who got to be in church 8 days a week and the other person is an atheist, and even then, actually, that situation might actually work better because the atheist might be like, all right, as long as you don't try to convert me. But usually what happens is people, they get in arguments about it because you have two different people. Like that might work if they got the same class and like enough sex appeal. But then when you talk about family, it's like, well, how are we going to raise our kids? What are we going to do that? And then you got family members saying, well, they got to get baptized. Or, they can't be eating no pork. Or, we need to be sage in this room and everything and do a reading to see how we should name the child. And the other one's like, no, we're just going to name him after Uncle Harry. It's like, that's going to make a major difference. It's going to be a conflict. And there's a lot of spiritual conflict. Like I've had a lot of women, especially recently, a whole lot. I was like, wait a minute, this is something here. I almost need to do a video on it. They'll say they like the guys that, as far as as people, the guys who might practice the same faith that they do, but they don't find them attractive. And like I said, men, we tend to let that stuff go a little bit more. We tend to let it go a little bit more. But that religious piece, even if you trying to talk to, if your goal is just to have sex real quick, it might not come up. But then when we talk about a relationship, and that's what a lot of select dudes especially, because that relationship thing, even if you trying to be player, shoot, the woman gets sprung enough, she gonna be like, let me take him to church. In fact, that's what some women do. They be like praying. They be like, yeah, I pray Jesus converts him. No, but it's some real stuff here. It's some real stuff, and these are some major issues. Now, there's other. These are just three major ones. There's always some other stuff that come in, or variations of it. Usually, it's just variations of these same issues. However you break it down. Like I've talked about subcultures before, but within the classes, within different religions, and shoot, even sexually, there are different subcultures. Like sexually, if one person's into some BDSM and the other one is purely vanilla, it could have some issues. So anyway, something to think about. Let me know if y'all want a book on that, because that's something. I got about 1,000 books I need to write. But anyway, that's all I got for today. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and many blessings.